How far can Arizona go if Caleb Love doesn't perform up to expectations?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. This is your team every single day. Okay, now, this show is also brought to you today by FanDuel. Put down $5, you get $250 in free plays if you're a new customer. And very cool stuff. You got the NFL, and you've also got college football coming here. All kinds of really, really good stuff. Put it down. Okay, now, let's talk a little bit about where Arizona basketball is now when it comes to Caleb Love, the grand scheme of things. Now, listen, Caleb Love is obviously a very, very good basketball player. The problem, though, is that Caleb Love has been wildly inconsistent, and he's been far more inconsistent than he was at this time last year, and I think that is a little bit of the issue, is that he has been wildly inconsistent, and there haven't been enough really good games to make up for the bad game, and that's where that's kind of where we're at this point. Listen, he is we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Caleb Love. We're obviously going to talk about KJ. We're going to talk about ADO, Texas Tech preview, surprise football commit, all that. But Caleb Love is going to be the topic for today. And because, again, if Arizona is going to reach its apex, Caleb Love has to be better. Period, point blank. If he's not better, then Arizona is going to be in a world of hurt. And the first thing that goes with is, there's going to be games when he is just not going to play well. That's just, or shoot well. That's just the way it is. He's not Salim Stoudemire or somebody like that where he's going to make, where he's going to shoot 49% from three-point range or 50%, whatever the case may be. That's just not his game. That's not what he does. But the problem, though, is that he's not coming close to anything last year, and he's not having the upside games. Last year, he had games where he shot last year he had games you could have a 3 for 16, and then the next game he's going to drop 35. That has just not been the case this year. That hasn't been close to the case this year, and they got to fix it. Now, a big part of it, too, is that when he gets to the basket, or he's got to get to the basket more. If he doesn't get to the basket more, he is going to be, it's just going to be an issue. He's got to shoot free throws. I've been saying this from day one. He has got to be able to get to the line 6 to 8 times per game. That, to me, shows that he's being aggressive. If he's being aggressive, then Arizona, again, is in pretty good shape. But if he's not doing that, then Arizona is also going to not be nearly as good as they should be. Now, listen, the other thing, too, is that he's just got to kind of get out of his own way. And I think that's a little bit of an issue here, is that he's got to get out of his own way. He's just forcing things. And when he's like on a 2-on-1 fast break, it doesn't look like he thinks the ball's even going to go in. Again, he's definitely in his head right now. What I liked about him last year for the majority of the season is that it always looked like he thought the next shot was going in. I found that an endearing quality. That has not been the case this year. Not only has that not been the case, that hasn't been close to the case. So there's obviously that. But the other thing, too, is like Tommy Lloyd said, you got to play like an All-American. I mean, the dude's getting paid really, really good money, and he's just not playing well enough. You got to play better, and he's just not. And there's also been just some kind of dumb situations. I mean, like I said, I can always deal with a player that's just not shooting necessarily well, but if there's other things that are going into it, but like defensively. Now, he did have some good plays. Obviously, but also there was that run out where he also just basically allowed the ball to be just thrown over his head for an easy dunk. Those are the things that can happen. You're a fifth-year senior, and not only are you a fifth-year senior, you're also the dude that everybody's looking at. It's just not been good enough, and he's got to figure that out. And Tommy Lloyd says that Tommy Lloyd has said multiple times that, Caleb's got to be better, and Caleb does have to be better. There's really no other way around that. If Caleb Love is playing like an All-American, then this team can beat anybody on any given day. If he's playing like this, it becomes a lot harder, and Arizona has, to its credit, Arizona has found its way to be able to get to win games, and I think that is a big part of all this, is that Arizona has found a way to be able to win games without him. Last year, they were not able to find out those ways. That's been because a lot of players have picked up the pace. Not only have they picked up the pace, they've also shown that, I think they've also shown at this stage too, that certain players are just going to be able to step up and be that guy when the time comes. Caleb just hasn't shown that at this point. So you got to find ways. You got to hope that he's going to be good. But at the same time, I think you also know that there's going to be a very real possibility that he is not going to be, he's just not going to necessarily be that. And if he's not that, then, Arizona's ceiling is a little bit more limited. I'll put it to you like that. But again, you got to figure it out. Tommy Lloyd gives him a lot of freedom, and I think that's a big thing about it. And I like Caleb Love because what I liked about him last year, and he's not necessarily showing it this year, is that he does kind of wear his heart on his sleeve, and that's that's good stuff. He's a guy that cares, but he's just all too often this season he's just kind of seemed out of it, and that just can't happen. Now, one thing that has been very, very good is that Arizona has found some ways to be able to kind of make up for it, to be able to make up for the player that has just not been what I think Arizona fans were hoping, and that's been a big part of it. And, that starts obviously with KJ Lewis. KJ Lewis, before the season, was a player that I think I thought had NBA potential, and I still do believe he has NBA potential. But the thing about him is he has got to just play his game, and he has been playing his game much, much better this season. He's been getting into the paint. He's been, as he's been doing this, he's been getting assist numbers. He's been racking up assists. He's been doing a lot of different things, and from 7 assists to 8 assists. KJ's a clever passer, and we've talked about this before. KJ's a very clever passer in that you watch him and you're like, okay, all right, this dude kind of gets it. This guy kind of gets it. And he is, but when he's trying to do that and he's not trying to be just your pigeonholed NBA shooting guard, he's just a lot better. And I think that's where it's, I think if you're an Arizona fan, that's where you feel a lot better about things, is that he's just a lot better when he's in those situations. And when he's driving to the hoop, he's been a very good finisher. It just kind of feels like the light went on. Like I said, I think for a good percentage of this season, he was just trying to be somebody that he wasn't. And, heck, a lot of people spend their entire life trying to be somebody that they aren't. But he was blessed with a lot of different skills. And one of those skills was to be able to get to the basket. And like I said, he is a good passer as well. So you've got to be able to really, I think, kind of factor that in as well. Dude is, like I said, he's going to be a huge part of what Arizona does. And not only is he going to be a huge part of what Arizona does, he is going to be the guy that, I think you can really count on. Like with Caleb Love, there's going to be some times when that shot isn't falling. There's just the way it is. There's going to be times when that shot isn't falling. But what can you do after that, though? With KJ Lewis, I don't expect the shot to fall. Now, again, if he makes it, great. But I don't expect his shot to fall. I expect his shot to be able to I expect that shot to be hit or miss. But again, he's powerful. He's athletic. He can drive to the basket. He can just do a lot of things that lead to winning plays. And he's also shown that he's got a real knack for the ball. That's the other thing, too, is that he's got a real knack for the ball. That's something that I think is very, very big in all of this. Because if you show that you've got an ability to be able to be around the ball, you're generally a pretty smart player. And he is a pretty smart player. So he's made a huge, huge difference for Arizona. Not only has he made a huge difference for Arizona, he's also shown that, that's the key that could maybe get him to the NBA as long as he does it. Now, there has been a surprise player for Arizona as well. But first, Prize Picks. All right, this message is brought to you by Prize Prizepicks, the place to get real money, sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, Prizepicks has changed in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or regular season, Prizepicks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all the football action. Again, you've got the NFL. You got college football championship game coming up as well. All right, but here's also the deal, though. Now it's playoff time, and there's no better time to get in on the action. Here's how it works. You simply pick more or less on at least 2 players, and if your pick hits, guess what? You win up to $1,000 in cash. Yes, that's right, 1,000 times your money just by making a few picks. All right. Ready to run your game this football season? Download the app and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 for just playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level. Prizepicks, run your game. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk about one of the surprise players on this team. Well, maybe not a surprise for me, but maybe a surprise for some other people, and that would be ADO. I love Anthony Del Orso. Listen, is he perfect? No. There's a lot of issues. Obviously, he's a guy that. He's a guy that I think at this stage in the game, defensively, he's not going to be good. But he's also not nearly as bad as I think some people are making him out to be. There's an ADO movement here to besmirch his contributions, and we will not allow it on here. He's a very good shooter. He's a guy that teams have to be able to basically defend. And you've got to stay on it. As Scott Drew said, you got to stay on his hip. That is the epitome of what people call a spacer. Everybody's complaining that, Arizona doesn't have any shooters. This guy is a shooter, and a lot of those same people don't want him to play. That is annoying to me. I do not get that. I do not get that one at all. But he's a good dude. He's a good player, and he's shown, too, that he can do more than just shoot. And Tommy Lloyd talked about the initiating the offense, not only initiating the offense, but being able to get to the bucket. And there was that play against, who was it against? It was either Baylor or UCF, where he drove baseline and then he threw it back the other way for a lob dunk to Henry. That is gold. We need more of that. We don't need less of that. We need more of that. And he's been very, very good. Listen, I think that there's going to be some limitations, just like with anybody else. But at the same time, I think you feel pretty good about what he's bringing to the table. At least you should feel pretty good about what he's bringing to the table because he has done a pretty darn good job. Listen, the offense, too, it just kind of feels a little bit better when he's in there. And he's adjusting to the caliber of play. That's a big thing, too, is that like our good pal Matt Muehlbach would always say, with a lot of these guys, it takes a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of time for them to just kind of really fall into what they're doing. And not only fall into what they're doing, but to be able to just kind of be that player that you want them to be. And he's been that guy. So we will find out. But Tommy Lloyd clearly is a big fan of his, and he should be a big fan of his. Because, again, he is a good player. All right, now, the other one, too, that we got to keep talking about is Henry Vassar. Henry Vassar is now starting to look like an NBA prospect. Now, who would have thought before the season that Henry would have been an NBA prospect? Not me, probably not you. And he's the guy that he's just playing smart, he's playing strong, and he just kind of gets it. Sometimes you always hear this, the light bulb goes on for big men, and that's kind of been the case for them. Not only has that been the case for him, he's been just a dude that you watch him and you're kind of like, all right, you're shooting the three. Not only are you shooting the three, Not only do you shoot the three, you're also able to just dunk and block shots. That's been a huge part of what he's done. And not only has that been a huge part of what he has done, it's been a thing too where you're kind of like, hmm, yeah. What is the deal? How can he continue to expand upon that? But it's kind of like with Carter Bryant. You don't want him to get too good too soon because you want him back next year. You don't want him in the MNBA draft. The MNBA draft. You want him to be back, but you know, that's what if he's going to continue to wreck people, it's a good problem to have. You'll just deal with it. That's something that's something that I think you just need to be able to keep an eye on. Now, Jaden Bradley, this is going to be an interesting matchup for Jaden Bradley, obviously, because with Texas Tech point guard is not a big scorer, but he's a good facilitator. He runs the team very well. Jaden Bradley's just got to be able to just continue to do what he's doing it. And if you do that, then I think you're going to be in pretty good shape. But the other one, too, it's going to be interesting to see. Carter Bryant, there's going to be games because, again, Carter Bryant's the best NBA prospect on this team. But there's going to be games that are going to be very difficult for Carter Bryant. I don't expect this to be one of those games. Now, in all fairness, I thought Baylor was going to be I thought Baylor was going to be, an awful matchup for Carter Bryant. It wasn't. He was able to play, but you still got to be able to string those together. Then when you go with you look at the Twins, just be okay. That's kind of where I'm at. Just kind of be okay. And if the Twins are okay, then I think you're going to be in a much, much better shape. So it's going to be interesting here. Like I said, I think that I'm going to pick Arizona. I'm going to pick Arizona to win this game. I am going to pick Arizona to win this game. Let's see. What will I pick this? I'm going to pick Arizona to win 80-76. And a win would be absolutely massive for Arizona. A win would be absolutely massive for Arizona because he is this is a team where you watch it and you're just kind of like, what would this mean? You would be at that point then. You look at 6-0 in conference, and then at 6-0, you can start to get a little bit greedy here. Not only can you start to get a little bit greedy, you can also start to get to the point too where you're like, all right, is this actually a championship? Is this a title contending type team? Because if you win this game, and Texas Tech again is really, really good. They feel like about a 7 or an 8 seed in the NCAA tournament, something like that. Not only do they feel like a 7 or an 8 seed, they feel like the kind of team that could also make a little bit of a run. They are really, really solid. Not only are they really, really solid, it's also a team, too, that is incredibly well coached. And I think that's where you've also got to say that Arizona could be in an interesting spot here because this would be a win that would age very, very well for Arizona. And I think they're going to win this game. So that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go a high-scoring affair that looks really, really good for Arizona. And I'm also going to say that there's going to be a little bit of a surprise factor there. And I believe that surprise factor in this game is I think Trey Townsend is going to play well. I just said it. I think Trey Townsend is going to play well. Now, this could easily come back to bite me. And you know what? If it does come back to bite me, so what? But I think Townsend is going to play well. I think that he had one of his better games last week. Not only did he have one of his better games last week, he also had a situation too where you're like, all right, kind of like what you're seeing right now. Not only do I kind of like what you're seeing, I kind of like where you're just at entirely. So we will find that one out. Now, Arizona basketball gets a surprise. Arizona basketball gets a very surprise football commit that some of us thought would happen. Some of us didn't think was going to happen, but we'll talk. What does that mean, though, for Arizona? But first, FanDuel, my friends, FanDuel. All right, here's the deal with FanDuel. Check out FanDuel. All right, here's the deal. You can visit FanDuel.com and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make the NFL season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. Check it out. FanDuel is a lot of fun because you know what? Again, you know your money's good. Not only do you know your money's good, you also know too that guess what? If I'm betting on college basketball, betting on college football, whatever the case may be, I know that FanDuel is reliable, and I can hop in there and make it reliable and to make it fun. So again, with FanDuel, that's the other thing too, is that you're watching this. This is the best time of the year to bet. This is the best time because, again, sometimes you might be watching a team and saying, I think there's going to be a little bit of a, I just don't think they're quite getting it. Now, with that, that's where you take advantage of it. So again, check it out, FanDuel. You got a great deal going on. Check it out. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. Locked on, your team every single day. All right, now, Arizona football getting Tia Savea. Tia Savea is a big move for Arizona. I like Tia Savea a great deal. Obviously, tackle that went to Texas, and watching him, he is he was a good player for Arizona. Now, just because you can't play at Texas doesn't mean that you can't play somewhere else. And I think that's what you've also got to factor in is that, some guys, it's like with Big Bill Norton at Georgia. When Big Bill Norton was at Georgia, people are like, oh, I couldn't play at Georgia. I don't care if you can't play at Georgia because that is a different entity entirely. It's not the same thing. Tia Savea, though. Tia Savea, very, very good, and I would expect him to start because, again, he's good, and players like him, the coaching staff likes him. He's just a good player, and I don't blame him at all because with Joe Sumalo, Joe Sumalo just isn't good enough. There's just really, he's just not really good enough. But Joe Salavea is a very, very nice addition for the Wildcats. Watching this, you know that with Salavea, he's going to be working really hard, and he's also going to be somebody that people respect, the coaches respect, the players respect. Joe Sumalo didn't really look at him, and you're like, that just wasn't the guy. And everybody kind of knew it. Everybody kind of knew that Joe Sumalo wasn't the guy. But it kind of is what it is. Now, watching him, though, and watching this defensive line, I think you got to see pretty quickly that this line is, how do I put this? It's a work in progress. But getting in Tia Savea, who will start, and then you got Isaiah Johnson, and everybody likes Chuba, so you got Chuba in there as well. The line starts to look a little bit better. I still don't love the edge rushers. I don't like the edge rushers at all. Trey Smith is okay. You've also got a player in Chase Kennedy that isn't bad, but you got to figure out some other avenues as well. Riley Wilson, maybe he steps it up a little bit. I don't know, but we'll see how that does all play out. But overall, though, the staff is also out in the community. I got to give them a lot of credit. Danny Gonzalez came on another platform, and he was all over the place. The coaching staff, when these, and I think the fact they're kind of getting it a little bit. They're kind of showing that, we know that we probably should be out there. We know that we should be out there, and you got to do that. And again, you got to be able to recruit. So we'll see how it plays out. But overall, I'm happy with how they're addressing the community. People are like, well, Mike, it should have happened last year. Well, yeah, it should have happened last year, but it didn't. But better late than never on that. That's always going to be kind of my motto. All right. But when it comes to Arizona, I am picking Arizona to beat Texas Tech. It's going to be a close game, but a win is a win is a win. And a win would be absolutely massive for the Wildcats. A win would be huge for the Wildcats, because then at that point, I think that you can start talking about, is this a tie? Is this a team that can win the Big 12? Is this a team that can really go far in March? This, I think, is going to be kind of that that line in the sand game. So, anyways, bear down and back the A. All right, now we're going to be back with you on the post game tomorrow. But as always, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. Locked On, your team every day. Again, got to get that victory, and kudos to the Arizona football staff for being out there in the community making things happen. We will be back with you tomorrow on the postgame show.